Good evening, welcome. Tonight, we embark upon a journey of profound inner exploration and ancient wisdom. Zen Buddhism offers a unique lens through which to perceive the self, gently guiding us toward our authentic essence, inviting us to shed layers of the conventional ego and rediscover a deeper truth. Before we delve deeper, if you feel so inclined, please share your country and local time. From which part of this vast world do you find peace with us, preparing for a restful night or a moment of quiet contemplation? Your presence here is a gift, a connection across distances, and a shared intention for stillness. This sacred space offers a haven for inner cultivation, nurturing the mind and awakening the spirit. Within these moments, you are invited simply to exist, to breathe, and to allow these reflections to guide you inward without effort or expectation. The wisdom you seek already resides within you. Our shared purpose is merely to gently recall its presence, to illuminate what has always been there, waiting patiently to be recognized. Should these thoughts resonate deeply with your experience, we invite you to return whenever you seek this quiet communion, this peaceful harbor for your awareness. Consider subscribing to keep this sanctuary of serenity readily accessible, a constant reminder of your capacity for profound stillness. Now take a full deep breath and settle into the now, as we prepare to explore the intricate tapestry of identity. The weaver's untangling, releasing the threads of identity. Tonight, we begin by contemplating the subtle ways our identities are woven, piece by intricate piece, often without our conscious awareness, creating a fixed self-narrative that can feel both comforting and confining. Let us consider Ilara, a master weaver whose hands knew the intimate language of the loom, each shuttle pass a testament to her skill and dedication. Her workshop, nestled in a valley where the scent of dyed wool mingled with the crisp mountain air, was a symphony of rhythmic clacks and the soft whirring of threads. Ilara's reputation was built upon the flawless precision of her tapestries, each pattern a reflection of her meticulous mind and unwavering focus, and she found a deep sense of self-worth, an almost visceral awareness in every perfectly executed design. Her very being seemed intertwined with the threads she manipulated, her sense of who she was inextricably linked to the intricate beauty she brought forth. Ilara's world, a rich tapestry of color and texture, was meticulously ordered, reflecting her own internal landscape, where every thought and action seemed to have its designated place. The sounds of her craft, the steady thud of the beater, the soft friction of yarn against her fingers, the gentle creak of the wooden frame, were the soundtrack to her self-definition. She prided herself on her ability to anticipate every twist and turn of the thread, to foresee the final image with absolute clarity. And this control over her craft mirrored her desire for control over her life, creating a seamless integration of her persona and her profession. This intentionality in her work, while producing exquisite results, also fostered a subtle rigidity within her, a quiet resistance to anything that might disrupt the predetermined pattern of her existence. One crisp autumn morning, as Ilara was beginning a particularly complex design, a new thread, unusually coarse and stubbornly resistant, snagged deep within her loom, creating a formidable snarl. It was not a simple knot, easily undone, but a tangled mass that seemed to defy logic, pulling at other threads, threatening to unravel hours of delicate work. Frustration, a sensation Ilara rarely allowed herself to feel, began to prickle at the edges of her composure. Her fingers, usually so agile and confident, hesitated, unsure of where to begin. The rhythmic sounds of the workshop seemed to mock her, and the scent of the wool, once comforting, now felt heavy, almost suffocating, as she confronted this unexpected challenge to her perceived mastery and the unwavering perfection she so valued. The snarl represented more than just a technical problem. It was an affront to Ilara's very identity as a master weaver, a direct challenge to the cognitive ease she usually experienced in her craft. Her ego, so carefully constructed around her impeccable skill, felt threatened by this chaotic disruption. She tried to force the threads apart, to cut them, to ignore the problem, but each attempt only tightened the knot, making the situation worse. The harder she strove for control, the more the tangle resisted, reflecting a deeper internal struggle. The rigid beliefs she held about perfection and her own self-worth, which she had woven into the fabric of her being, were now being tested, forcing her to confront a resistance that was not just in the threads, but within herself. In a moment of quiet desperation, Ilara leaned back from the loom, closing her eyes, and took a deep, shuddering breath. The clamor of her inner critic began to subside, replaced by a profound stillness. She realized that forcing the issue would only destroy the entire piece. Instead, she had to approach the snarl with a different kind of awareness, one of patience and acceptance. She began to untangle it, not by pulling, but by gently loosening each strand, one by one, feeling the individual textures, observing the way each thread intertwined with the others. This process was slow, painstaking, and required a radical acceptance of the current state, a surrender to the journey rather than an insistence on the destination, fostering a visceral awareness of each delicate movement. As Ilara meticulously worked, a new understanding began to emerge, a subtle ontological shift in her perception. She saw that each thread, though part of a larger pattern, was distinct, ephemeral, and not inherently fixed. Her identity, she realized, was much like this tapestry, a complex weaving of experiences, roles, and beliefs, none of which were permanent or truly her in an unchanging sense. The untangling became a metaphor for releasing the fixed narratives she held about herself, recognizing the impermanence of these constructs. The sounds of the workshop faded into the background as her focus deepened, uncovering a spaciousness within her own mind, a freedom from the clinging to a rigid self. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or non-self, which suggests that our identities are not fixed, immutable entities, but rather ever-changing aggregates, like the threads of Ilara's tapestry. We often cling to these constructs, to our roles, our achievements, our stories, believing them to be our true nature. However, true inner freedom arises from the recognition that these are merely temporary formations, subject to anicca, or impermanence. Ilara's journey was one of letting go, of observing awareness without attachment to the outcome, understanding that the essence of her being existed prior to any specific pattern or form she created or identified with, nurturing a profound sense of self-knowledge. The true self, the Buddha mind, is not something to be achieved or created, but rather something to be uncovered by releasing the layers of the ego, the craving for recognition, and the attachment to fixed ideas. In the quiet act of untangling, Ilara was cultivating Shoshin, a beginner's mind, approaching the problem with fresh eyes and an open heart, free from preconceived notions of how things should be. This practice of non-attachment, of simply being present with what is, allowed her to experience a profound stillness, a deep sense of contentment, as the intricate knots in the threads and within her own mind began to dissolve. She found that the essence of her being was not diminished by this letting go, but rather expanded, revealing an inherent spaciousness. Shunryu Suzuki Roshi once said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few." Ilara, once an expert bound by her expertise, now found herself in a state of beginner's mind, open to the vast possibilities that lay beyond her former rigid identity. As she untangled the last stubborn thread, she felt a lightness she had never known, a sense of liberation from the weight of perfection and expectation. Her hands, once tense with frustration, now moved with a graceful equanimity, understanding that the true beauty of her craft and of life itself resided not in flawless execution, but in the continuous process of creation and dissolution, of embracing the flow. We too often weave intricate tapestries of self, creating identities from our achievements, our relationships, our fears, and our aspirations. These threads, while forming a beautiful and unique pattern, can also create knots of attachment, suffering, and craving when we cling too tightly to them. As you settle into this moment, allow yourself to gently observe the threads of your own identity. Where might you be holding on too tightly? Where might a subtle snarl of expectation or a rigid belief be preventing your true nature from unfolding? Allow this quiet contemplation to gently loosen those threads, inviting a sense of profound stillness, and prepare to explore how even the most rigid beliefs can melt away, allowing new forms to emerge. The silversmith's fire, melting down rigid beliefs. Allowing old forms to dissolve, we turn our attention to the spaciousness that remains. And tonight, we delve into how deeply held beliefs can solidify the ego, creating a rigid structure that resists change. Let us meet Cale, a skilled silversmith whose reputation for exquisite, unblemished work extended far beyond his quiet coastal town. His workshop, perched near the rhythmic murmur of the ocean waves, often smelled of charcoal and the faint, clean scent of polished metal. Kyle took immense pride in the absolute purity of his silver, working only with the finest, most unadulterated ingots, believing that any alloy was a compromise, a flaw in the very essence of the material. This unwavering commitment to purity was not just a professional standard, it was a cornerstone of his identity, a reflection of his own internal quest for perfection, and an unwavering adherence to what he perceived as unassailable truth, creating a sense of profound stillness in his focused craft. Cale's hands, calloused and strong, moved with an almost meditative grace as he hammered, filed, and polished, coaxing brilliance from the raw metal. He saw his craft as a reflection of his own character, unyielding, precise, and untainted by compromise. He rejected any suggestion of working with alloys, viewing them as inferior, a dilution of the true beauty and strength of silver. This rigid belief system, while ensuring the high quality of his work, also created an internal fortress, a fixed sense of self that was deeply attached to his methods and his definition of perfection. His existence was defined by these clear boundaries, and the thought of stepping outside them, of embracing anything less than absolute purity, filled him with a subtle unease, an almost unconscious resistance to the impermanence of his own artistic principles. One winter, a particularly harsh season, brought an unforeseen scarcity of pure silver. Shipments were delayed, mines were inaccessible, and Kyle found himself facing an empty stock, a situation that threatened to halt his entire livelihood. A local merchant, knowing Kyle's skill, offered him a batch of high-quality silver alloy, a blend of silver and copper, assuring him of its strength and workability. Kyle's initial reaction was a visceral rejection. The very idea felt like a betrayal of his principles, a compromise he simply could not countenance. His mind, accustomed to its rigid pathways, resisted this shift with a fierce, almost suffering intensity, generating an inner turmoil that disrupted his usual profound stillness. The thought of tarnishing his reputation, of creating something less than perfect, was almost unbearable. a true test of his non-attachment. Driven by necessity and the looming threat of financial ruin, Kyle reluctantly agreed to try the alloy. As he placed the unfamiliar metal into his roaring forge, the heat, usually a comforting presence, now felt intensely hostile, mirroring the fire of his internal resistance. The alloy, instead of melting with the familiar, predictable grace of pure silver, behaved differently, its surface shimmering with an unexpected iridescence as it softened. The smell, too, was subtly altered, carrying a faint, coppery tang that was foreign to his accustomed senses. He felt a deep sense of discomfort, a challenging of his established cognitive ease, as he struggled to anticipate its properties, to coax it into the desired form, experiencing a deep craving for the familiar. With each strike of his hammer, Kyle felt a growing frustration, a trishna or thirst for the metal to conform to his expectations, to behave like the pure silver he knew and loved. He gritted his teeth, his brow furrowed in concentration, as the molten alloy resisted his usual techniques, demanding a different touch, a more nuanced understanding. The glowing embers of the forge seemed to mock his struggle, casting dancing shadows that mimicked his internal battle. He realized, with a sudden, startling clarity, that his own rigidity, his attachment to a specific way of doing things, was creating as much resistance as the metal itself. The heat of the forge was not just transforming the alloy, it was also subtly melting the rigid beliefs within him, an embodiment of his own inner struggle. In that moment, a subtle shift occurred within Kyle. He began to observe the alloy, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. He let go of his preconceived notions, allowing his beginner's mind, his shoshin, to take over. Instead of forcing the metal, he started to listen to it, to feel its unique rhythm, to understand its inherent properties. He noticed its surprising malleability at certain temperatures, its unique luster as it cooled. This radical acceptance of the material as it was, rather than as he wished it to be, allowed a new kind of creative flow to emerge. The roar of the forge, once a symbol of his struggle, now became a powerful, almost meditative presence, a part of the seamless integration of his renewed practice. As Kyle continued to work, he discovered that the alloy, far from being inferior, possessed a remarkable strength and resilience that pure silver lacked. It held intricate details with greater integrity and developed a rich, warm patina that was distinctively beautiful. The finished piece, a delicate pendant, glowed with an unexpected depth, a testament to the transformative power of acceptance. This unexpected beauty, born from what he initially deemed a compromise, reflected a profound ontological shift within Kyle himself. He realized that his identity as a silversmith was not defined by the purity of his material, but by his skill, adaptability, and the wisdom to embrace change, leading to a new sense of inner freedom and contentment. This transformative experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching that much of our suffering arises from trishna, the craving or attachment to things being a certain way, including our own fixed ideas and beliefs about ourselves. When we cling to rigid views, we create resistance to the natural flow of impermanence, or anicca. Kyle's initial suffering stemmed from his attachment to the idea of pure silver and his identity as a craftsman who only worked with it. By allowing his beliefs to melt in the heat of necessity, he found not only a new material, but also a deeper sense of inner peace and a more expansive understanding of his own true nature, free from the constraints of his ego. The Buddha once taught, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." Similarly, Kyle's attachment to his rigid views was burning him, preventing him from seeing new possibilities and experiencing the full richness of his craft. His journey through the forge was a powerful lesson in letting go, in cultivating non-attachment to outcomes and preconceived notions. It demonstrated that true strength often lies in adaptability, in the willingness to be refined by the fires of experience, rather than in an unyielding adherence to outdated forms. This profound stillness, born from acceptance, allowed him to embody a new level of wisdom. Cale's newfound acceptance of the alloy and of the impermanence of his own fixed beliefs opened up a vast, uncharted territory within his mind. The rigid boundaries of his self-definition had softened, creating a spaciousness where curiosity and flexibility could thrive. He had learned that true artistry and true living lay not in avoiding the unknown, but in embracing its potential for transformation. As the echoes of his hammer fade, let us consider how we too navigate the vast, unexplored regions of our own consciousness, and how the fear of blank spaces can prevent us from discovering the boundless potential that lies beyond our known maps. The cartographer's blank map, embracing the unknown self. From the malleable nature of potential, we journey to the clarity of observation, and tonight we explore the ego's profound fear of the unknown, its inherent need for defined boundaries and familiar landscapes to feel secure. Consider Liam, a meticulous cartographer who resided in a secluded mountain monastery, high above the world, where the air was thin and the silence was often broken only by the rustle of parchment. Liam's days were spent perfecting maps of known territories, each mountain range, river and village rendered with painstaking accuracy. He found comfort in the certainty of his lines, the precision of his labels, and the completeness of his finished works. The very idea of an empty space on a map filled him with a quiet dread, a deep aversion to the undefined, to anything that lacked a clear, discernible form, disrupting his cognitive ease. Liam's identity was intricately tied to his mastery of the known world. His self-worth was measured by the comprehensiveness of his atlases, the absolute absence of blank spaces. He believed that to truly understand something was to map it, to contain it within precise boundaries, and this belief extended to his understanding of himself. He meticulously categorized his thoughts, his emotions, his experiences, attempting to create an internal map as detailed and ordered as his external ones. This need for definition, for everything to be named and placed, created a sense of security, yet it also subtly limited his perception, preventing him from experiencing the vast, untamed wilderness of his own inner landscape, fostering a deep craving for certainty. One day, Liam's master, a wise old monk with eyes that held the depth of ancient forests, presented him with a large, pristine sheet of parchment. "Liam," the master said gently, "I task you with creating a map of a region no one has ever seen, a place that exists only in potential." Liam's heart sank. The sheer blankness of the parchment seemed to mock his years of disciplined mapping, challenging his very understanding of what a map should be. A wave of apprehension washed over him, followed by a surge of anxiety. How could he map what was unknown? His mind, accustomed to solid ground, recoiled from this vast, formless expanse, a true moment of suffering. Liam returned to his quiet study, the blank parchment spread before him like an empty sea. The silence of the monastery, usually a source of profound stillness, now felt oppressive, amplifying the emptiness on the page. He picked up his finest pen, but his hand hovered, uncertain. There were no mountains to trace, no rivers to chart, no villages to name. He tried to imagine features, to draw from his memory of other lands, but the master's words echoed in his mind. A region no one has ever seen. Each imagined line felt false, forced, an attempt to impose a known structure onto an unknown reality, a futile act of Trishna. The subtle scent of the ink seemed to emphasize the starkness of the unwritten future. Days turned into weeks, and Liam remained paralyzed by the blankness. He spent hours simply staring at the parchment, his mind a tempest of frustration and self-doubt. His ego, accustomed to the praise for his detailed maps, now felt exposed and vulnerable in the face of this undefined task. He craved the familiar contours of a known landscape, the reassuring certainty of a pre-existing reality. The master would occasionally visit, offering no instructions, only a gentle smile and a quiet invitation to observe the blankness. Liam struggled with this, interpreting it as a void, a lack, rather than a spaciousness, a field of boundless potential. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a shift began to occur. As Liam continued to sit with the blankness, without striving to fill it, he started to notice the subtle textures of the parchment itself, the faint, irregular fibers, the way the light played across its surface, the crisp rustle of the paper, once a sound of his meticulous work, now became a gentle whisper of possibility. He began to perceive the blankness not as an absence, but as a vast open field, an unwritten story, a state of pure potentiality. This was the beginning of cultivating Shoshin, a beginner's mind, letting go of his expert's need to define everything, embracing a radical acceptance of the undefined. This shift in perception was a profound ontological transformation. Liam realized that his fear of the blank map was a reflection of his fear of the unknown within himself, the parts of his true nature that lay beyond the boundaries of his constructed ego. The blankness was not empty in a negative sense, but empty of fixed inherent existence, embodying sunyata. It was a spaciousness, a boundless ground from which all forms could arise, yet none were necessary. He began to understand that true inner freedom came from releasing the need to define, to categorize, to control every aspect of his inner and outer worlds, allowing for a deep sense of equanimity to settle within him. This experience illuminated the Buddhist concept of sunyata, or emptiness, which is not a void or nothingness, but rather the dynamic potentiality of all phenomena, free from inherent, fixed existence. Just as the blank map held the potential for any landscape, Liam's true nature was boundless, unconstrained by the ego's need for definition. Embracing the unknown, the unmapped, allowed him to transcend the limitations of his constructed self, revealing a deeper, more expansive awareness. He discovered that the most profound wisdom often lies in the willingness to not know, to sit in the space before concepts and labels take hold, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Dogen Zenji, a revered Zen master, taught, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things." Liam, by confronting the blank map, was learning to forget the self defined by his meticulous craft, allowing himself to be actualized by the spaciousness of pure potential. He found liberation in the uncharted territories, a profound stillness that arose from letting go of the need for control and embracing the inherent wisdom of the undefined. His pen, once hesitant, now rested peacefully, no longer burdened by the need to fill every space, recognizing the sufficiency of simply being. Liam's journey with the blank map taught him that true understanding often lies beyond the confines of what we already know, in the willingness to embrace the vast, unwritten potential of existence. The fear of the unknown dissolved into a profound sense of peace and spaciousness, a deep resonance with the formless. As we move from the uncharted lands of the mind, we prepare to encounter the rhythm of acceptance, understanding that all things are subject to change, and that embracing this impermanence is the true path to inner freedom. The gardener's withered vine. Accepting impermanence. As we move from the uncharted lands of the mind, we prepare to encounter the rhythm of acceptance, understanding that all things are subject to change, and that embracing this impermanence is the true path to inner freedom. Tonight, we confront the reality of anicca, impermanence, and the ego's inherent resistance to change, which often manifests as a deep-seated suffering. Let us turn our attention to Aiko, a patient and devoted gardener who tended a small, secluded temple garden, a sanctuary of vibrant life and profound stillness. Among her many carefully nurtured plants, she had a prized vine, its tendrils gracefully climbing an ancient stone wall, which bore the sweetest, most succulent fruit in the entire region. The very existence of this vine, its consistent bounty, had become a source of immense joy and a quiet pride for Aiko, a cornerstone of her daily rhythm and her connection to the earth, an embodiment of her dedicated practice. Aiko's days were filled with the earthy smell of damp soil, the gentle hum of bees flitting among blossoms, and the rustle of leaves in the soft breeze. She knew every curve of the vine, every nascent bud, every ripening fruit. The vine represented stability, abundance, and the predictable cycle of nature, reinforcing her sense of purpose and the unwavering beauty of her garden. Her identity as a gardener was deeply intertwined with the health and productivity of her plants, especially this particular vine. The thought of its absence, of any disruption to its vibrant life, never crossed her mind, as it seemed as eternal and reliable as the rising sun, creating a subtle attachment, a trishna, to its unchanging presence. One sweltering summer, a sudden, inexplicable blight struck the region. Aiko, with her immense knowledge and tireless efforts, tried every remedy, every traditional cure to save her beloved vine. But despite her unwavering intentionality and devoted care, nothing worked. Day by day, its vibrant green leaves began to yellow, then brown, and eventually, the once plump fruit shriveled and fell to the ground. The beautiful tendrils, once so full of life, became brittle and dry, their grip on the stone wall loosening. Aiko watched in despair, her heart heavy with a profound sense of loss and frustration, a deep suffering that mirrored the dying plant. The garden, once her sanctuary, now felt like a place of sorrow. Aiko's initial reaction was a fierce resistance, a deep craving for the vine to return to its former glory. She felt a personal failure, a blow to her identity as a skilled gardener, and a profound sense of grief for what was lost. She clung to memories of its luscious fruit, its vibrant leaves, and the sense of security it had provided. This clinging, this trishna, intensified her suffering, making it difficult for her to find peace even in the other thriving parts of her garden. The sight of other healthy plants felt almost accusatory, highlighting her perceived failure to preserve her prized possession. Her mind was caught in a loop of regret and what-ifs, preventing any sense of equanimity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long melancholic shadows across her garden, Aiko sat beside the withered vine, tears silently tracing paths down her weathered cheeks. In that moment of complete surrender, exhausted from her struggle, she let go of her resistance. She stopped trying to fix, to change, to reverse the inevitable. She simply sat, observing the stillness, the quiet decay, and for the first time, truly saw the beauty in its ending. The rough texture of the dry bark under her fingers felt different, not like death, but like a quiet transformation, revealing a visceral awareness of the natural flow of existence. As she sat, she began to notice the small, unseen changes happening around the withered vine. Tiny insects were diligently breaking down the decaying leaves, enriching the soil. New shoots of resilient wildflowers were pushing through the earth nearby, drawing nourishment from the very ground that held the remnants of her loss. She observed the cycle of decay and rebirth happening not just in her garden, but in every breath she took, every moment that passed. This deep, equanimous observation allowed her to see that the vine's life had not ended, but had transformed, contributing to the larger, ceaseless flow of life. It was a powerful lesson in non-striving. This profound realization illuminated the Buddhist teaching of anicca, impermanence. Everything is in a constant state of flux, arising, abiding, and passing away. Our suffering, the first noble truth teaches, arises not from change itself, but from our resistance to it, our craving for things to remain fixed and eternal. Aiko's attachment to the vine's unchanging presence was the source of her despair. By accepting its impermanence, by letting go of her Trishna, she opened herself to a deeper, more expansive understanding of existence, finding a profound stillness even amidst loss. Her sense of self, once tied to the vine's vitality, now expanded to embrace the entire cycle of life and death, an embodiment of radical acceptance. Thich Nhat Hanh, a beloved Zen master, taught, "When we are able to look at the impermanence of things, we can be free from suffering." Aiko's journey was a testament to this truth. Her initial despair transformed into a deep acceptance, a profound sense of peace that transcended the specific loss of her vine. She understood that life's beauty lay precisely in its constant transformation, its endless cycles of arising and passing. Her identity as a gardener shifted from someone who controlled life to someone who intimately understood and flowed with its natural rhythms, cultivating a deep sense of contentment and inner freedom. Aiko learned that true contentment did not come from clinging to what was, but from embracing what is, from finding sufficiency in the present moment, even in its transient nature. The withered vine, once a source of sorrow, became a powerful teacher, revealing the interconnectedness of all life and the wisdom of letting go. Her self-compassion grew as she understood that resistance to change was a universal human experience, and that true strength lay in the gentle art of acceptance. She found a deep resonance with the natural flow, a profound stillness that pervaded her entire being. In the ebb and flow of existence, we discover a deeper sense of inner peace, a spaciousness that holds both joy and sorrow with equanimity. Aiko's garden, once a place of personal attachment, became a living testament to the beauty of impermanence, a constant reminder that letting go creates space for new life, new perspectives, and a deeper connection to the true nature of reality. As we allow the lessons of the withered vine to settle within us, let us prepare to explore how self-centeredness can obscure the interconnectedness of all things, and how listening beyond the self can reveal a boundless awareness. The bellmaker's resonance, listening beyond the self. In the ebb and flow of existence, we discover a deeper sense of inner peace, a spaciousness that holds both joy and sorrow with equanimity. Tonight, we consider how self-centeredness can obscure the profound interconnectedness of all things, creating an illusion of separation. Let us meet Hiroki, a renowned bellmaker whose creations graced temples and monasteries across the land. His workshop, located in a vibrant city, was surprisingly tranquil, a haven where the rhythmic ringing of metal mingled with the distant murmur of urban life. Hiroki was obsessed with the perfect tone of his own bells, spending countless hours refining their pitch, their sustain, their unique character. He believed the quality of his bells, their singular resonance, was a direct reflection of his own skill and inner harmony. a central pillar of his identity, generating a profound stillness when he focused on his craft. Hiroki's ears were finely tuned to the subtleties of sound, but primarily to the sounds he created. He rarely listened to the cacophony of the city, dismissing it as mere noise, a distraction from his art. His world revolved around the clear, pure tones of his bronze bells, finding in their perfection a reflection of his own meticulous craftsmanship and unwavering focus. This deep concentration, while allowing him to produce masterpieces, also fostered a subtle form of ego, a belief in his own unique perception and the superiority of his creations. He was so engrossed in the sounds he produced that he often missed the symphony of sounds that already existed, the seamless integration of life's varied expressions, leading to a subtle craving for recognition of his own unique sound. One sweltering afternoon, a visiting master, whose reputation for wisdom preceded him, came to Hiroki's workshop. The master listened intently as Hiroki demonstrated his finest bell, its deep, resonant tone filling the air. When the sound finally faded, Hiroki looked expectantly at the master. Instead of praise, the master simply smiled and asked, "Hiroki, can you hear the silence between the rings? Can you hear the sound of the city itself, not as noise, but as a single, vast bell?" Hiroki was perplexed. He had always focused on the sound, on the form, on the distinct identity of his bells, never on the spaces between or the background hum, and the question created a subtle suffering within him, challenging his established perspective. The master's words lingered in Hiroki's mind, a subtle discord in his perfectly tuned world. He tried to listen, truly listen, but his ears, accustomed to isolating and analyzing, found it difficult to perceive the silence, or to hear the city as a unified sound. The distant rumble of carts, the chatter of merchants, the cries of street vendors, all seemed like separate, competing elements, not a cohesive whole. He felt a deep sense of inadequacy, a challenge to his perceived mastery of sound. His ego, so invested in his ability to create perfect individual sounds, struggled with the idea of a boundless awareness that encompassed everything, even what he had previously dismissed as irrelevant. Driven by a quiet determination, Hiroki began a new practice. He would sit in his workshop, not to make bells, but simply to listen. He closed his eyes, allowing the sounds of the city to wash over him, without judgment, without trying to categorize or analyze. He started to notice the subtle rhythms, the overlapping layers, the way individual sounds merged and dissolved, creating a complex, ever-changing sonic tapestry. He observed the spaces between the sounds, the profound stillness that underpinned every note, every murmur. This was the beginning of cultivating sati, full presence, a deep, equanimous observation of the auditory landscape, allowing for a radical acceptance of all that arose. As days turned into weeks, Hiroki's perception began to transform. He no longer heard just individual sounds, but a vast, interconnected resonance, a single boundless bell vibrating with the life of the city. The silence between the rings of his own bells was no longer an absence, but a rich, pregnant spaciousness, a field of pure potentiality from which all sounds emerged. He realized that his obsession with the perfect individual tone had created an illusion of separation, preventing him from experiencing the seamless integration of all phenomena, the inherent unity of existence. This visceral awareness was an ontological shift in his understanding of sound and self. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of Sangha, not just as a community of practitioners, but as the interconnectedness of all phenomena. We are not isolated entities, but rather integral parts of a vast, interdependent web of existence. Hiroki's previous self-centeredness, his focus on his own creations, had obscured this fundamental truth. By learning to listen beyond the self, to embrace the symphony of the world without judgment or attachment, he transcended the boundaries of his ego and experienced a boundless awareness, a profound stillness that resonated with the very fabric of reality, cultivating a deep sense of self-knowledge. Alan Watts, a renowned interpreter of Zen, often spoke of the illusion of separation, stating that we are not in the world, we are of the world. Hiroki's journey was a living embodiment of this wisdom. He realized that his own bell's resonance was not an isolated phenomenon, but a part of the larger, continuous vibration of existence, an expression of Dharma. His identity expanded from being merely a bell maker to being a listener, a participant in the universal song. This letting go of his fixed self-perception brought him immense inner freedom and a deep, abiding contentment, a true experience of non-attachment. Hiroki learned that true wisdom lay not in creating the loudest or most perfect individual sound, but in listening to the entirety of existence, including the silence that holds it all. His practice transformed from one of striving for individual perfection to one of embodying full presence and equanimity, embracing the natural flow of life's symphony. He understood that his true nature was not separate from the world around him, but deeply intertwined, a part of the boundless awareness that permeated everything. This radical acceptance of all sounds, all forms, fostered a deep self-compassion, extending to his own inner world. This boundless awareness invites us to shed the weight of self-importance, to dissolve the illusion of separation, and to recognize our place within the grand, interconnected tapestry of life. Hiroki's bells, once symbols of his individual achievement, now became reminders of the vast resonant silence from which all sound arises and to which all sound returns. As we consider this deep resonance, let us prepare to explore how the ego's attachment to form and achievement can obscure the inherent potential and beauty in the formless state prior to any fixed identity. The sculptor's clay, the formless before form, this boundless awareness invites us to shed the weight of self-importance, to dissolve the illusion of separation, and tonight we explore the ego's profound attachment to form and achievement, often overlooking the inherent potential and beauty that exists in the formless state prior to any fixed identity. Let us consider Ren, a young sculptor whose ambition burned brightly, fueling his relentless pursuit of a masterpiece. His studio, filled with the earthy scent of damp clay and the quiet focus of his hands, was a crucible where raw material was transformed into art. Ren constantly compared his work to that of other renowned sculptors, striving for recognition, for the definitive piece that would establish his legacy, a subtle craving for external validation that shaped his every stroke and decision, creating a subtle suffering when his work did not meet his lofty expectations. Ren's identity was deeply intertwined with his creations. He believed that his worth as an artist and as a person was directly proportional to the tangible forms he brought into existence. Each finished sculpture was a testament to his skill, his vision, and his ability to leave a lasting mark on the world. The act of shaping clay, of giving it a permanent form, was not just his craft. It was his way of defining himself, of solidifying his ego. He clung to the idea of a masterpiece, a singular achievement that would elevate him above others, unaware that this very attachment was subtly limiting his creative flow, obscuring the spaciousness of pure potential that lay within the malleable material itself, preventing a true embodiment of his artistic spirit. One humid afternoon, Ren presented a nearly finished, intricate figure to his master, a wise old woman whose hands, though gnarled with age, still possessed an extraordinary sensitivity. The master examined the sculpture carefully, then looked at Ren with a gentle, knowing gaze. "Ren," she said softly, "before you seek to create a lasting form, spend weeks simply molding and remolding this clay. Create nothing that endures. Let the form arise and dissolve until you understand the beauty of the formless." Ren was bewildered. His mind, accustomed to striving for permanence, recoiled from the idea of creating something only to destroy it, a challenge to his cognitive ease. Ren reluctantly returned to his studio, the master's words echoing in his mind. He sat before a fresh block of clay, its cool, pliable feel familiar yet unsettling in this new context. He began to mold it, shaping it into a head, then a hand, then an abstract form, only to gently, deliberately press it back into an undifferentiated mass. The initial days were filled with frustration, a deep resistance to the seemingly pointless exercise. His ego rebelled against the lack of a tangible outcome, the absence of a finished product to display or admire. He craved the satisfaction of completion, the affirmation of a finished piece, and this trishna created a subtle inner turmoil, disrupting his usual profound stillness. But as the weeks passed, something began to shift. Ren's hands, no longer driven by the urgency of creation or the pressure of comparison, began to move with a newfound lightness, a meditative grace. He started to feel the clay more intimately, to appreciate its inherent plasticity, its endless capacity for transformation. The subtle scent of damp earth became a comforting presence. He noticed the myriad possibilities contained within the formless lump, the infinite shapes it could become, and the beautiful impermanence of each transient form. He wasn't creating, he was simply being with the clay, observing its nature, cultivating a deep sense of presence and equanimity. In this practice of continuous arising and dissolving, Ren began to understand the profound wisdom of the master's instruction. He realized that the clay, in its undifferentiated state, held all potential. Every form, no matter how magnificent, was merely a temporary manifestation, a fleeting expression of that underlying potential. His attachment to the finished product, to the fixed form, had blinded him to the beauty of the process itself, to the boundless creativity that existed before any single form was solidified. This was an ontological shift in his understanding of art and existence, leading to a profound stillness in his being, a deep appreciation for the formless. This experience illuminated the Buddhist concept of sunyata, or emptiness, not as a void, but as the dynamic ground of being, the field of pure potentiality from which all phenomena arise. Just as the formless clay held the potential for any sculpture, our true nature, or Buddha mind, exists prior to any fixed identity or constructed ego. Ren's ego had been attached to the form of his artistic achievements, but by engaging with the formless, he began to dissolve those attachments, experiencing a profound sense of inner freedom and non-attachment. He learned that true mastery lay not in what he created, but in his awareness of the creative process itself, in his capacity for self-knowledge. Pema Chodron, a revered Buddhist teacher, often speaks of working with what is, embracing the present moment without resistance. Ren's practice of molding and remolding was a direct application of this wisdom. He learned to be present with the clay in its ever-changing state, accepting its fluidity, its impermanence. This cultivation of beginner's mind, or shoshin, allowed him to release the pressure of striving for a masterpiece and instead find contentment in the simple act of engagement. He discovered that the beauty he sought was not in the final form, but in the boundless potential that resided in every moment, in the spaciousness of his own unburdened awareness, a true embodiment of radical acceptance. Ren's journey taught him that true creativity and true living emerges from a place of non-striving, from an acceptance of the formless before it solidifies into form. His ego's attachment to achievement had been a heavy burden, but by dissolving these attachments, he found a lightness, an inner freedom, and a deeper resonance with his original nature. He understood that his worth was not dependent on what he produced, but on his inherent capacity for awareness and presence. The clay, once a medium for his ambition, became a teacher, revealing the wisdom of letting go and embracing the ever-present potential. From the malleable nature of potential, we journey to the clarity of observation, preparing to shed the ego's rough edges. As Ren's hands found peace in the formless, let us consider how the intricate workings of the mind, like the delicate gears of a watch, can often be obscured by our identification with thoughts, and how quiet observation can reveal a profound stillness, a deep sense of equanimity. The watchmaker's gears. Observing the inner mechanism. From the malleable nature of potential, we journey to the clarity of observation, and tonight, we turn our attention to the intricate workings of the mind and how the ego's identification with thoughts can often obscure our true nature, creating inner chaos. Let us consider Elias, a meticulous watchmaker whose small, quiet workshop in a quaint village was a sanctuary of delicate precision. He understood every tiny gear, every minute spring, every intricate mechanism of the timepieces he repaired. His hands, steady and precise, could coax life back into the most complex movements, and he found a deep sense of purpose and achievement in his ability to restore order to mechanical chaos, a profound stillness in his focused concentration. Elias's external world was one of perfect order and predictable function. He saw the world through the lens of cause and effect, where every problem had a solution, every mechanism a logical explanation. Yet his own inner world often felt chaotic, a whirlwind of thoughts, worries, and endless mental chatter. He would often identify so completely with his thoughts that they felt like his true self, leading to moments of profound suffering when those thoughts were negative or anxious. He craved the same clarity and order within his mind that he brought to his watches, a seamless integration of his inner and outer worlds, but often found himself caught in a loop of mental striving, a subtle trishna for inner peace. One crisp morning, an elderly woman, known for her quiet wisdom, brought Elias an antique pocket watch. As he meticulously began to disassemble it, she observed his furrowed brow and the subtle tension in his shoulders. "Elias," she said softly, "you understand every gear of this watch, yet your own mind seems to spin out of control. Have you ever considered observing your thoughts as you observe these mechanisms without judgment or interference?" Elias paused, his tiny screwdriver suspended in midair. The idea was novel, almost revolutionary to his analytical mind, challenging his cognitive ease. Elias, intrigued by the master's words, decided to try. He would sit in his workshop, not to repair watches, but to observe his mind. He closed his eyes, allowing the delicate clicking of his tools, the faint smell of oil, and the steady rhythm of a ticking clock to serve as his anchors. He tried to watch his thoughts, but they seemed to rush by like an uncontrollable torrent, each one demanding his attention, pulling him into its narrative. His ego, accustomed to being in control, found this passive observation difficult, almost useless, and he felt a deep resistance to simply letting thoughts be, a craving for them to stop or to be different. But with persistent, gentle effort, Elias began to cultivate a new kind of awareness. He started to see his thoughts not as him, but as distinct mental events, like the individual gears of a watch. He noticed how one thought would lead to another, how emotions would arise and pass, how memories would surface and then recede. He didn't try to stop them or change them. He simply observed them without judgment, without getting entangled in their content. This was the beginning of Vipassana, the practice of insight meditation, a deep, equanimous observation of the inner landscape, fostering a profound stillness. As weeks passed, Elias found that this practice of observing awareness brought a profound sense of calm. He realized that he was not his thoughts. He was the awareness that observed them. Just as he could watch the gears of a watch turn without becoming the gears themselves, he could watch his thoughts without identifying with them. This radical acceptance of his inner experience without attachment or aversion led to a deep sense of inner freedom and equanimity. The chaotic mental chatter began to quiet, not because he forced it, but because he stopped feeding it with his identification and resistance, allowing for a deep sense of self-knowledge to emerge. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching that our suffering often arises from our identification with our thoughts and emotions, mistaking them for our true self, or anatta. When we cling to these mental constructs, we create trishna, a craving for them to be different, leading to inner turmoil. Elias learned that liberation comes from cultivating observing awareness, from recognizing that we are not the content of our minds, but the spaciousness in which those contents arise and pass. This practice of non-attachment allowed him to experience a profound stillness, a deep sense of contentment that transcended the fluctuations of his mental landscape. Jack Cornfield, a respected Buddhist teacher, often speaks of finding freedom in the act of observation, stating that the mind is like a clear sky. Thoughts are like clouds that come and go. When we identify with the clouds, we forget the sky. Elias, through his practice, began to remember the sky, his original nature, the Buddha mind that was always present, clear and vast, beneath the passing clouds of thought. He learned that true inner peace was not the absence of thoughts, but the presence of observing awareness, a deep sense of non-striving and acceptance. Elias's journey taught him that just as he brought precision and order to the external mechanisms of a watch, he could bring mindful awareness and equanimity to the internal mechanisms of his mind. He found that true inner freedom lay not in controlling his thoughts, but in observing them with compassion and detachment, allowing them to flow without getting entangled. His identity shifted from someone defined by his mental processes to someone who embodied a spacious, observing awareness, a profound stillness that pervaded his entire being. This visceral awareness of his inner workings became a source of wisdom. Through this quiet observation, we begin to dissolve the need for external validation, for the constant affirmation that our ego craves. Elias's newfound inner clarity allowed him to see beyond the superficial, to appreciate the profound stillness that resides within, regardless of external circumstances. As we move from the intricate gears of the mind, let us prepare to explore how the ego's constant search for external recognition can obscure a deeper inner light, and how shining inward, not outward, can reveal a boundless efficiency. The lighthouse keeper's beam, shining inward, not outward. Through this quiet observation, we begin to dissolve the need for external validation, for the constant affirmation that our ego craves. Tonight, we explore how the ego's relentless search for external recognition can obscure a deeper, inherent inner light. Let us turn our attention to Ronan, a lighthouse keeper, whose solitary existence on a craggy island was defined by the powerful beam he projected across the dark, vast ocean. His days were a rhythmic dance of maintenance and vigilance, ensuring the light pulsed reliably, a beacon of safety for distant ships. Ronan took immense pride in the reach and unwavering strength of his light, measuring his own worth his very identity, by its far-flung visibility, the impact it had on the world beyond his isolated perch, creating a profound stillness in his focused duty. Ronan's life revolved around the outward projection of his light. He meticulously polished the Fresnel lens, ensuring every facet gleamed, and calibrated the lamp with an almost reverent precision. The rhythmic sweep of the light across the waves, the salty tang of the sea air, and the distant, grateful murmurs of ship horns were the external affirmations that fueled his sense of purpose. His ego thrived on this validation, this undeniable proof of his usefulness and importance. He believed that his significance lay entirely in his ability to illuminate the darkness for others, and the thought of his light being unseen, unacknowledged, was a subtle source of anxiety, a craving for his efforts to be recognized, creating a resistance to any perceived failure. One night, a dense, impenetrable fog rolled in from the sea, thick and silent, swallowing the island whole. Ronan's powerful beam, usually a piercing spear of light, now diffused into a weak, hazy glow, barely visible beyond the immediate vicinity of the lighthouse. The foghorn, usually a clear, mournful cry, sounded muffled and lost. Despite his tireless efforts to intensify the light, to make it penetrate the dense veil, it remained stubbornly invisible to distant ships. Ronan watched in despair, his heart heavy with a profound sense of uselessness and insignificance, a deep suffering that gnawed at his carefully constructed identity. His purpose, his very being, seemed to have vanished with the visibility of his light. The fog represented a profound challenge to Ronan's ego. His external measure of worth, the visible reach of his light, had been completely negated. He felt a deep sense of anatta, a loss of the self he had meticulously built around his role. His mind, accustomed to the clear feedback of a visible beam, now wrestled with the uncertainty of his impact. He craved the affirmation of distant ships, the knowledge that he was guiding them safely, and the absence of this feedback created a trishna, a thirst for recognition that was left unquenched. The rhythmic sweep of the light, once comforting, now felt like a futile gesture, an embodiment of his struggle. Exhausted and disheartened, Ronan finally extinguished the main lamp. In the profound stillness that followed, a silence deeper than any he had ever known, he sat in the dark lantern room. The only sound was the muffled moan of the foghorn and the gentle lapping of waves against the rocks below. With no beam to project, no external purpose to fulfill, he was stripped of his usual role, his external identity. In this unexpected void, this spaciousness, a different kind of light began to flicker within him. Not a beam projected outward, but a quiet, steady glow from within. A visceral awareness that had always been present, yet overshadowed by his outward striving. As Ronan sat in the quiet darkness, he began to perceive a new dimension of his being. He realized that his inherent worth, his true nature, was not dependent on the visibility of his light or on the recognition of others. The inner light, the profound stillness and presence he discovered, was self-sufficient, needing no external witness or validation. It was always there, a steady, unwavering flame, regardless of whether the fog obscured his outward efforts. This was an ontological shift, a radical acceptance of his inherent sufficiency, a deep sense of contentment that transcended the ego's need for external praise or acknowledgement. He found a profound stillness in simply being, without striving. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of inner peace and sufficiency, which arises from letting go of the ego's craving for external validation. Our true nature, our Buddha mind, is inherently luminous, needing no external source to shine. Ronan's journey through the fog was a lesson in turning inward, in recognizing that the source of his true purpose and worth resided not in what he did or how he was perceived, but in the boundless awareness that was always present within him, fostering a deep sense of self-knowledge. This practice of non-attachment to outcomes allowed him to find a profound stillness, a deep sense of equanimity. Ajahn Chah, a revered Thai forest master, taught, "If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace." Ronan, by letting go of his attachment to the visible beam, found not only peace, but also a deeper, more authentic sense of self. He understood that his purpose was not solely to shine for others, but also to cultivate the light within, to embody full presence regardless of external conditions. This radical acceptance of circumstances, this non-striving, transformed his solitary vigil into a profound meditation, a sanctuary of inner freedom. Ronan's journey taught him that true significance does not lie in the magnitude of our external impact, but in the quality of our inner presence. The dense fog, initially a source of despair, became a profound teacher, forcing him to look inward and discover the boundless sufficiency that had always resided within him. His identity shifted from a lighthouse keeper defined by his beam to a being who radiated an inner light, a profound stillness that needed no external witness. This deep resonance with his true nature brought him a lasting sense of contentment and peace, a seamless integration of his inner and outer worlds. Turning inward, we find a profound stillness that transcends all seeking, a boundless sufficiency that needs no external validation. Ronan's lighthouse, once a symbol of outward projection, became a beacon of inner discovery, reminding us that the deepest source of light resides within. As we embrace this inner illumination, let us prepare to explore how the ego's relentless pursuit of perfection and its fear of imperfection can obscure the inherent wholeness of things as they are, and how embracing flaws can reveal a deeper beauty and a more profound acceptance. The potter's imperfect bowl, embracing flaws as wholeness. Turning inward, we find a profound stillness that transcends all seeking, a boundless sufficiency that needs no external validation. Tonight, we delve into the ego's relentless pursuit of perfection and its deep-seated fear of imperfection, which often prevents us from seeing the inherent wholeness and beauty in things as they are. Let us meet Saki, a skilled potter whose serene village workshop was famed for its exquisite, flawlessly crafted vessels. Her hands, nimble and precise, could transform a lump of clay into a perfectly symmetrical, unblemished bowl or vase, each piece a testament to her unwavering dedication and meticulous attention to detail. Saki's reputation was built on this perfection, and her identity as an artist was deeply intertwined with the pristine quality of her creations, fostering a profound stillness in her focused craft. Saki believed that true beauty lay in absolute flawlessness. She would discard any piece with the slightest crack, an uneven rim, or an imperfect glaze, viewing these as failures, a blemish on her artistic integrity. Her pursuit of perfection was relentless, a subtle craving or trishna that drove her every action, creating a subtle suffering when her work fell short of her impossibly high standards. She often compared her work to an idealized image in her mind, and any deviation caused her distress, preventing her from experiencing the inherent contentment of simply creating. Her ego was deeply invested in this image of perfection, making it difficult to embrace any form of imperfection, any deviation from her established cognitive ease. One spring, a new apprentice, a young man named Kenji, joined Saki's workshop. Kenji was eager, but clumsy, his hands often fumbling, his forms rarely perfectly symmetrical. Saki watched with a mixture of frustration and impatience as Kenji's bowls emerged from the wheel, often with a slight wobble, an uneven texture, or a charmingly crooked rim. She would gently correct him, urging him towards precision, towards the flawlessness she so valued. Kenji, however, seemed to possess an unshakable inner peace, a deep sense of equanimity that allowed him to embrace his imperfections, finding a unique beauty in each one, a quality Saki found both perplexing and subtly unsettling, challenging her rigid beliefs. One afternoon, Kenji presented Saki with a bowl he had just finished. It was undeniably imperfect. One side was slightly lower than the other. The glaze had bubbled in a small, almost imperceptible spot, and the texture was uneven, bearing the clear marks of his hands. Saki instinctively reached out to point out its flaws, her mind already formulating the corrections. But then she paused. Kenji was holding the bowl with such genuine joy, his eyes shining with a radiant acceptance, a visceral awareness of its unique character. He saw not its imperfections, but its singular beauty, its honest expression, an embodiment of his non-striving. In that moment, something shifted within Saki. She looked at the bowl again, not through the critical lens of her own perfectionism, but through Kenji's eyes, through his lens of radical acceptance. She saw the way the light caught the slightly uneven rim, creating a subtle play of shadow and highlight. She noticed the unique texture, which gave the bowl a tactile warmth and an organic feel. The small bubble in the glaze, once a flaw, now appeared as a tiny, iridescent pearl. She realized that the bowl's imperfections did not detract from its beauty. They enhanced it, giving it character, history, and a profound sense of wholeness, an ontological shift in her perception. This was a profound realization for Saki. She had spent her life striving for an ideal that, in its very pursuit, often led to suffering and dissatisfaction. Kenji, with his simple, joyful acceptance of imperfection, was showing her a different path, a path of contentment and sufficiency. She understood that true beauty was not about the absence of flaws, but about the inherent completeness of things as they are, without judgment or comparison. Her ego's attachment to perfection, to a rigid ideal, began to soften, creating a spaciousness within her, a profound stillness that allowed for a deeper sense of self-knowledge and self-compassion. This experience illuminated the Buddhist wisdom of acceptance and the inherent completeness of things as they are. Our ego often creates suffering by clinging to ideals of perfection, leading to trishna, a craving for things to be other than they are. When we resist imperfection, we resist reality itself. Saki learned that by embracing flaws, by letting go of her attachment to an idealized outcome, she could find a deeper sense of peace and inner freedom. This practice of non-attachment allowed her to see the beauty in every unique expression, recognizing the Dharma in every form, perfect or imperfect. Thich Nhat Hanh taught, "To be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself." Saki, through Kenji's example, began to accept not only the imperfect bowl, but also her own imperfections and the imperfections inherent in life itself. Her identity shifted from a potter who created flawless objects to an artist who understood and celebrated the inherent beauty in all forms, embracing the natural flow of existence. This cultivation of beginner's mind, or shoshin, allowed her to find a deep resonance with her original nature, free from the burden of striving for an unattainable ideal. Saki learned that true contentment did not come from achieving flawlessness, but from radical acceptance, from finding sufficiency in the present moment, in the unique character of each creation. The imperfect bowl became a powerful teacher, revealing that wholeness is not the absence of flaws, but the embrace of all aspects of existence. Her self-compassion deepened as she understood that the pursuit of perfection often masked a fear of not being enough, and that true peace lay in recognizing the inherent worth and beauty of everything, just as it is. This acceptance paves the way for a deeper compassion for ourselves and for all beings, allowing us to see the inherent beauty in every unique expression of life. As Saki found peace in the imperfect bowl, let us prepare to explore how the ego's tendency to overthink and control can obscure the natural flow of creativity, and how the art of no mind, or mushin, can reveal a profound inner freedom and a deeper resonance with our true nature. The calligrapher's empty stroke, the art of no mind. This acceptance paves the way for a deeper compassion for ourselves and for all beings, allowing us to see the inherent beauty in every unique expression of life. Tonight, we explore the ego's pervasive tendency to overthink, to control, and to intellectualize every action, often stifling the natural flow of creativity and intuition. Let us turn our attention to Kenji, an aging calligrapher whose delicate brushwork was once celebrated throughout a bustling city. His small studio, a haven of quiet focus amidst the urban clamor, often smelled faintly of sumi ink and rice paper. Kenji's hands, once renowned for their effortless grace, had begun to stiffen with age, and his strokes, once fluid and spontaneous, now felt forced, losing their natural vitality, creating a subtle suffering in his once joyful craft. Kenji's identity had long been intertwined with his impeccable calligraphy. He prided himself on his ability to perfectly render complex characters, to control every nuance of the brush. But as his physical dexterity waned, he found himself compensating by overthinking, by meticulously planning each stroke in his mind before executing it. This intellectual control, while an attempt to maintain his high standards, paradoxically led to a loss of spontaneity and genuine expression. His ego clung fiercely to his past achievements, to the idea of himself as a master calligrapher, and this craving for his former prowess created a deep resistance to his current limitations, preventing a true embodiment of his artistic spirit, disrupting his cognitive ease. One crisp morning, Kenji was struggling with a particularly challenging character, his brush hovering over the paper, his mind a whirlwind of self-criticism and doubt. His master, a serene old woman who rarely spoke, but whose presence radiated profound stillness, entered the studio. She observed Kenji's tense posture, the furrow in his brow. Without a word, she took a fresh sheet of paper and with an empty brush, dipped it lightly in water, then moved it across the page in graceful, effortless strokes, leaving only faint, shimmering trails. "Practice with an empty brush, Kenji," she advised softly. "Let the ink flow without conscious direction. Discover the art of no mind." Kenji was bewildered, the concept seemingly antithetical to his years of disciplined practice. Kenji reluctantly began to practice with an empty brush, the absence of ink feeling strangely liberating yet unsettling. His initial attempts were awkward, his hands still trying to control, to force a result, even without the tangible medium of ink. He felt a deep sense of frustration, a trishna, or thirst, for the familiar feedback of ink on paper, for the visible outcome of his efforts. His ego, accustomed to the validation of a finished character, struggled with the apparent pointlessness of creating invisible marks. The subtle rasp of the brush on dry paper seemed to mock his striving, highlighting the emptiness of his efforts. He craved the certainty of a visible result, and this craving created inner turmoil. But as he persisted, Day after day, something began to shift. Kenji started to feel the subtle weight of the brush, the texture of the paper, the rhythm of his own breath, with a newfound intimacy. He let go of his conscious control, allowing his hand to move freely, guided by an intuition deeper than thought. He noticed the natural flow of his arm, the subtle dance of his wrist. The quiet focus amidst the city sounds became a meditative presence, a seamless integration of his inner and outer worlds. He was not thinking about making a stroke, he was simply making it, allowing the action to arise spontaneously, cultivating a deep sense of equanimity. In this practice of the empty stroke, Kenji began to understand the profound wisdom of Mushin, or no mind. He realized that his true creative power did not come from intellectual planning or conscious control, but from a state of effortless presence, a spaciousness beyond thought. When his mind was empty of striving, of self-criticism, of attachment to outcome, his hand moved with a natural grace, a fluidity that surpassed his former, labored efforts. The empty strokes, though invisible, felt more authentic, more alive than any character he had meticulously planned. This was an ontological shift in his understanding of art and self, revealing a profound stillness. This experience illuminated the Buddhist concept of Mushin, or no mind, which is not an absence of thought, but a state of awareness free from attachment to thought, free from the ego's incessant need to control and define. It is a state of natural flow, often associated with Wu Wei, acting without effort or striving, allowing things to unfold organically. Kenji's ego had been bound by his pursuit of perfection and control, but by embracing Mushin, he found liberation, a deep sense of inner freedom and non-attachment. He discovered that his original nature, his Buddha mind, was inherently creative, needing no conscious manipulation to express itself, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Shunryu Suzuki Roshi often spoke of the beginner's mind, or Shoshin, as the key to true practice, stating, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few." Kenji, by letting go of his expert's preconceived notions, returned to a beginner's mind, open to the boundless potential of the empty stroke. He learned that true mastery was not about perfect control, but about perfect surrender, about trusting the wisdom of his body and the natural flow of his being. This radical acceptance of simply being, without striving, brought him immense contentment and a deep resonance with the Dharma. Kenji's journey taught him that true artistry and true living emerges from a place of profound stillness, a spaciousness beyond the ego's need to define and control. His identity shifted from a calligrapher who meticulously crafted characters to a being who embodied the natural flow of existence, expressing himself with effortless grace. He found that the freedom he sought was not in achieving a perfect form, but in embracing the formless potential, in the continuous arising and dissolving of each moment. This visceral awareness of his true nature brought him a lasting sense of inner peace. In this freedom from conceptual thought, we find a deep resonance with our true nature, a spaciousness that transcends the ego's endless striving. Kenji's empty strokes, once a source of confusion, became a profound lesson in the art of no mind, reminding us that true creativity and wisdom arise when we let go of control and simply allow. As we consider this effortless being, let us prepare to explore how the ego's focus on superficial gains and external achievements can obscure the pure essence that lies beneath the surface, and how patience can reveal the true value found in sufficiency. The salt harvester's patience, the essence beneath the surface. In this freedom from conceptual thought, we find a deep resonance with our true nature, a spaciousness that transcends the ego's endless striving. Tonight, we delve into the ego's pervasive focus on superficial gains and external achievements, often overlooking the profound essence that lies beneath the surface, the true value found in sufficiency. Let us consider Mara, a salt harvester whose livelihood depended on the vast, shimmering lagoon near her coastal village. She measured her success by the sheer volume of salt crystals she collected each season, meticulously filling sack after sack, her hands rough and calloused from the labor. Her identity was deeply tied to her productivity, to the tangible proof of her hard work and abundance, creating a profound stillness in her focused effort. Mara's life was a rhythm of hard work and accumulation. She prided herself on having the fullest storehouse, the largest piles of glistening white crystals. She believed that more was always better, and her striving for greater yields was a constant underlying current in her life, a subtle craving, or trishna, that fueled her every action. She often compared her harvest to that of other harvesters, and any perceived shortfall created a subtle suffering, a blow to her ego and her sense of self-worth. Her mind was constantly calculating, planning, and striving for the next big harvest, preventing her from experiencing the contentment of the present moment, disrupting her cognitive ease. One year, a prolonged drought struck the region. The sun beat down relentlessly, but without the usual rains, the lagoon's waters receded dramatically, and the salt crystals, once abundant, became scarce, clinging stubbornly to the parched earth. Mara, despite her tireless efforts, found her nets coming up nearly empty, her baskets barely filled. Panic began to set in, a deep fear that threatened her livelihood and her carefully constructed identity as a successful harvester. She tried harder, working longer hours, but her striving yielded little, amplifying her sense of frustration and helplessness, an embodiment of her struggle against impermanence, or anicca. Mara felt a deep sense of despair, a profound suffering as her usual methods failed. Her ego, so invested in her ability to produce, felt shattered by the scarcity. She craved the abundant harvests of previous years, the reassuring sight of overflowing sacks, and this trishna intensified her inner turmoil. The blinding glint of the sun on the remaining water, once a symbol of her prosperity, now seemed to mock her efforts, highlighting her perceived failure. She resisted the reality of the drought, clinging to her old ways, unable to adapt to the changing circumstances, unable to find a profound stillness in the face of adversity. Exhausted and defeated, Mara finally sat down on the cracked earth beside the lagoon, her empty net beside her. The vast silence of the landscape, usually filled with the sounds of her labor, now enveloped her. In that moment of complete surrender, she let go of her striving, her desperate attempts to force an outcome. She simply sat, observing the slow evaporation of the remaining water, the way the sun gently coaxed the last few crystals from the earth. She noticed the subtle textures of the remaining salt, the way it shimmered with an inherent beauty, even in its scarcity, cultivating a deep sense of presence and equanimity. As she sat, Mara began to perceive the salt in a new way. It was no longer just a commodity, a measure of her success, but a precious essence, a pure substance born from the patient interaction of sun and water. She realized that even a small amount of pure, concentrated salt held immense value, far beyond the sheer volume of a lesser quality. Her focus shifted from quantity to quality, from accumulation to appreciation of the fundamental essence. This was an ontological shift, a radical acceptance of sufficiency, a deep sense of contentment that transcended the ego's insatiable craving for more, revealing a profound stillness. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching that much of our suffering arises from trishna, the craving for more, for external gains, for superficial achievements. When we cling to the idea that our worth is tied to what we accumulate or produce, we create an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. Mara learned that true contentment, true inner freedom, comes from recognizing sufficiency in what is, from appreciating the inherent value of the present moment, regardless of external circumstances. This practice of non-attachment to outcomes allowed her to find a profound stillness, a deep sense of self-knowledge and inner peace. The Dhammapada, a collection of Buddha's teachings, states, "Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, faithfulness the best relationship. Nirvana is the highest happiness." Mara, through her ordeal, discovered the profound wealth of contentment, a richness that far surpassed the largest pile of salt crystals. Her identity shifted from a harvester, defined by her yield, to a being who understood the essence of value, who found sufficiency in simplicity, and who embodied a deep sense of non-striving, a profound resonance with the Dharma. Mara's journey taught her that true wisdom lay not in relentless striving for more, but in patient observation and deep appreciation for the essence of things. The drought, initially a source of despair, became a powerful teacher, forcing her to look beyond the superficial and discover the boundless sufficiency that resided in the simple act of being, in the pure essence of the salt itself. Her self-compassion grew as she understood that the ego's constant craving was a source of endless suffering, and that true peace lay in recognizing the inherent value of what is, just as it is. As the superficial layers dissolve, we uncover a spaciousness within, a profound stillness that holds the potential for transformation. Mara's lagoon, once a site of endless labor, became a mirror reflecting the wisdom of sufficiency and the beauty of essence. As we consider this deep contentment, let us prepare to explore how the ego's attachment to future plans and constructed realities can obscure the boundless potential of the unbuilt, the spaciousness that exists before any form is solidified. The architect's unbuilt structure, the spaciousness of potential. As the superficial layers dissolve, we uncover a spaciousness within, a profound stillness that holds the potential for transformation. Tonight, we explore the ego's profound attachment to future plans, to constructed realities, and how this can obscure the boundless potential of the unbuilt, the spaciousness that exists before any form is solidified. Let us turn our attention to Julian, a gifted architect whose mind was a whirlwind of intricate designs and grand visions. He spent years perfecting elaborate blueprints for a magnificent temple, a structure that he believed would be his crowning achievement, a lasting testament to his skill and creativity. His studio, filled with the precise lines on parchment and the faint scent of old paper, was a crucible of his ambition, generating a profound stillness in his focused work. Julian's identity was deeply intertwined with his architectural projects, especially this grand temple. He envisioned every arch, every column, every intricate detail with vivid clarity, pouring his entire being into its conceptualization. He believed that his worth as an architect and as a person would be solidified by its physical manifestation, by the tangible proof of his vision brought to life. The thought of this temple not being built, of his meticulously crafted plans remaining on paper, filled him with a deep sense of dread and a subtle craving, a trishna, for its completion. His ego was deeply invested in this future achievement, preventing him from experiencing contentment in the present moment, disrupting his cognitive ease. For years, Julian pursued the construction of his temple with unwavering dedication. He secured patrons, gathered materials, and oversaw every detail of the initial preparations. The project became his singular focus, consuming his thoughts and dreams. He imagined the feeling of standing before the completed structure, the awe it would inspire, the legacy it would leave. His happiness, he believed, was contingent upon this future event, and he pushed relentlessly forward, oblivious to the subtle suffering he created by living entirely in the future, by clinging to an outcome that had not yet materialized, an embodiment of his struggle against impermanence. However, fate, in its unpredictable wisdom, intervened. A series of unforeseen circumstances, political upheaval, economic downturns, and the loss of key patrons conspired to halt the temple's construction indefinitely. Julian was devastated. The news hit him like a physical blow, shattering his dreams and his carefully constructed vision of the future. He felt a profound sense of loss, a deep suffering that permeated his entire being. His life's work, his magnum opus, seemed destined to remain unbuilt, a collection of precise lines on paper, devoid of the vibrant life he had envisioned. His mind was caught in a loop of regret and what-ifs, unable to find a profound stillness. In his despair, Julian retreated to his studio, surrounded by the silent blueprints of his unbuilt temple. The precise lines, once a source of pride, now felt like a cruel reminder of what would never be. He spent days in quiet contemplation, staring at the detailed plans, feeling the weight of his attachment to a future that would never arrive. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, as he allowed himself to simply sit with the profound stillness of his disappointment, a different kind of awareness began to emerge. He started to see the blueprints not as a failed project, but as a field of pure potential, a testament to what could be rather than what was lost, cultivating a deep sense of equanimity. Julian began to meditate on the concept of the unbuilt. He realized that the temple, in its imagined form, still existed within the spaciousness of his mind, within the realm of pure potential. The blueprints, though not a physical structure, held the essence of its design, its beauty, its purpose. He understood that the value of his creation was not solely dependent on its materialization, but on the creative act itself, on the vision that had arisen within him. This was an ontological shift, a radical acceptance of the formless, a liberation from the ego's attachment to tangible outcomes and fixed realities, leading to a deep sense of inner freedom and contentment. This experience illuminated the Buddhist concept of sunyata, or emptiness, not as a void, but as a dynamic field of boundless potential. Just as the unbuilt temple existed as pure possibility in the blueprints, our true nature, or Buddha mind, is a vast spaciousness, unconstrained by fixed forms or future achievements. Julian's ego had been attached to the form of his built temple, but by embracing the unbuilt, he dissolved those attachments, experiencing a profound sense of non-attachment. He discovered that the wisdom he sought was not in the completion of a project, but in the inherent completeness of the present moment, in the spaciousness of his own unburdened awareness, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Alan Watts, a profound interpreter of Eastern philosophy, often spoke of reality as process, not as fixed things. Julian, through his journey, began to understand this. He realized that the joy of creation was not solely in the finished product, but in the continuous flow of inspiration, the unfolding of potential. His identity shifted from an architect defined by his built structures to a being who understood and celebrated the boundless potential of all things, embracing the natural flow of existence. This cultivation of non-striving, of simply being with what is, brought him immense inner peace and a deep resonance with the Dharma. Julian's journey taught him that true fulfillment lay not in clinging to future plans, but in embracing the spaciousness of potential, in finding contentment in the creative process itself, regardless of its material manifestation. The unbuilt temple, initially a source of sorrow, became a powerful teacher, revealing that the ego's attachment to outcomes creates suffering, and that true peace lies in recognizing the inherent value and beauty of the formless. His self-compassion grew as he understood that the pursuit of external achievements often masked a deeper craving for inner peace, and that true serenity was always available within the boundless awareness of the present moment. This spaciousness allows for a profound stillness to emerge, a deep sense of inner freedom that transcends all external circumstances. Julian's blueprints, once symbols of unfulfilled ambition, became maps to an inner landscape of boundless potential, reminding us that true creation arises from a place of non-attachment. As we consider this liberating spaciousness, let us prepare to explore how the ego's grip on possessions, relationships, and even memories can bind us, and how finding freedom in non-attachment can lead to a lighter, freer self, a deeper resonance with our true nature. The weaver's loose threads. Finding freedom in non-attachment. This spaciousness allows for a profound stillness to emerge, a deep sense of inner freedom that transcends all external circumstances. Tonight, we explore the ego's pervasive grip on possessions, on relationships, and even on memories, and how this clinging can bind us, preventing the emergence of a lighter, freer self. Let us turn our attention to Anya, an elderly weaver whose small, cozy home was filled with a lifetime's collection of threads, fabrics, and unfinished tapestries. Every piece held a story, a memory, a connection to her past, and she cherished each one, meticulously organizing them, her hands, though frail, still moving with a gentle reverence for the material. Her identity was deeply intertwined with these tangible links to her history, creating a profound stillness in her focused attention to her keepsakes. Anya believed that her memories, her experiences, and her connections were embodied in these physical objects. She found comfort in their presence, a sense of security and continuity. Her ego clung to these possessions, seeing them as extensions of herself, as proof of a life well lived, and she feared the loss of any single item, believing it would diminish her own being. This subtle craving, or trishna, for things to remain, for the past to be preserved, created a quiet anxiety, a subtle suffering that permeated her days. She spent countless hours tending to her collection, unaware that this very attachment was subtly weighing her down, preventing a true embodiment of inner freedom, disrupting her cognitive ease. One blustery evening, a small fire broke out in Anya's hearth, quickly spreading to a pile of old linens nearby. The flames, though contained quickly by her swift action and the help of neighbors, created a chaotic urgency. In the smoke-filled confusion, Anya had only moments to salvage what was truly essential, what truly mattered. Her mind raced, grappling with the impossible choice of what to save from her lifetime of accumulated treasures. Her ego, faced with the immediate threat of loss, struggled fiercely, clinging to every item, every memory, creating a deep resistance to the impermanence of her possessions. A profound stillness broken by panic. As the smoke thickened and the heat intensified, a sudden, piercing clarity cut through Anya's panic. She looked at her vast collection, at the myriad threads and fabrics, and realized, with a visceral awareness, that none of these physical objects were truly her. Her memories, her love, her experiences, these resided within her, not in the external things. In that critical moment, she instinctively grabbed only a small worn blanket, a gift from her grandmother, and a cherished photograph. The rest, she realized, she had to let go, This radical acceptance of loss, this forced detachment, was an ontological shift in her understanding of self and possession. Standing outside her home, watching the last wisps of smoke dissipate, Anya felt an unexpected, profound relief. The accumulated weight of her possessions, the subtle burden of clinging to so many things, had been lifted. She realized that her attachment to those items had not brought her happiness, but a constant underlying anxiety. Now, stripped of almost everything, she felt a lightness she had never known, a sense of inner freedom and spaciousness that was truly liberating. The cool night air on her face felt crisp and clean, a stark contrast to the stifling weight she had carried, cultivating a deep sense of equanimity. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of detachment and non-attachment. Non-attachment is not indifference or apathy, but a liberation from the suffering caused by grasping and clinging to things, people, or even ideas as if they are permanent or essential to our identity. Anya's ego had been bound by her possessions, but the fire, though destructive, became a powerful teacher, forcing her to let go and discover that her true nature, her Buddha mind, was inherently free, needing no external anchors, fostering a deep self-knowledge. She found a profound stillness in the simplicity of having less, a deep contentment. The Buddha taught, "From craving springs grief, from craving springs fear. For him who is wholly free from craving, there is no grief, much less fear." Anya's journey was a testament to this truth. By letting go of her craving, her trishna for her possessions, she found a freedom from grief and fear. Her identity shifted from a weaver defined by her accumulated treasures to a being who understood the profound liberation that comes from non-attachment, from recognizing the impermanence of all external forms. This cultivation of non-striving, of simply being present with what is, brought her immense inner peace and a deep resonance with the Dharma. Anya learned that true wealth lay not in what she owned, but in her capacity for inner freedom, for a spaciousness of being that transcended all material things. The fire, initially a source of immense loss, became a powerful catalyst for her spiritual growth, revealing that the ego's grip on possessions creates suffering, and that true peace lies in recognizing the inherent value and beauty of simply existing unburdened. Her self-compassion deepened as she understood that the desire to hold on was a universal human experience, and that true strength lay in the gentle art of letting go, of embracing the natural flow. Releasing our grip, we find ourselves grounded in the present moment, a spaciousness that holds all things with equanimity. Anya's loose threads, once a symbol of her past, became a reminder of the liberation found in non-attachment, of the lightness that comes from shedding what no longer serves our true nature. As we consider this profound freedom, let us prepare to explore how the ego's rough edges can be smoothed by the practice of presence, and how cultivating mindful awareness can reveal a profound stillness, a polished surface of clarity and inner peace. The stone carver's smoothness, the polished surface of presence. Releasing our grip, we find ourselves grounded in the present moment, a spaciousness that holds all things with equanimity. Tonight, we explore how the ego's rough edges, its sharp judgments and restless striving, can be smoothed by the practice of presence, revealing a polished surface of clarity and inner peace. Let us turn our attention to Jin, a patient stone carver whose life was dedicated to transforming rough, unyielding boulders into polished, serene monuments. His workshop, open to the elements, often echoed with the rhythmic tap of his chisel and the gritty feel of stone dust that permeated the air. Jin found a deep sense of purpose and a profound stillness in the slow, meticulous process of revealing the inherent beauty hidden within the raw stone, an embodiment of his unwavering focus. Jin believed that the true art of stone carving was not in adding but in removing, in patiently chipping away the superfluous layers to reveal the smooth, luminous surface beneath. He saw this as a metaphor for his own life, always striving to refine himself, to smooth away his own rough edges, his impatience, his worries. Yet, despite his outward focus on creating serene forms, his inner world was often agitated, filled with the constant chatter of his ego, its judgments, its desires, its subtle craving for recognition, a trishna that prevented him from experiencing true contentment. He was constantly striving for a kind of inner perfection that seemed perpetually out of reach, disrupting his cognitive ease. One scorching summer, Jin was tasked with carving a monument of profound simplicity, a smooth, unadorned sphere that needed to be perfectly round and exquisitely polished. He began his work with his usual meticulousness, but the sheer simplicity of the form, with no intricate details to distract him, forced him to confront the subtle imperfections in his own technique, and more profoundly, the restless activity of his own mind. The rhythmic tap of his chisel, usually a source of focus, now seemed to amplify his inner turmoil, highlighting his impatience and his subtle suffering as he struggled to achieve flawless precision, a resistance to the natural flow. Jin found himself becoming frustrated, his hands tense, his mind racing with self-criticism. He craved the satisfaction of seeing a complex form emerge, something that would showcase his skill. But this simple sphere demanded a different kind of mastery, one of pure presence and unwavering patience. He would often rush, trying to speed up the process, only to create new indentations that required even more painstaking correction. His ego, accustomed to the praise for his elaborate works, struggled with the perceived lack of challenge, the absence of an obvious masterpiece to strive for, making it difficult to find a profound stillness in the monotonous task. One evening, exhausted and disheartened, Jin stopped working and simply sat beside the partially carved sphere. The sun was setting, casting long, soft shadows across the workshop, and a gentle breeze carried the faint, earthy scent of damp granite. In that moment of complete cessation of effort, he closed his eyes and allowed himself to simply be present with the stone, with his own breath. He noticed the cool, smooth touch of the polished granite where he had already worked, and the rough, granular texture of the untouched surface. He focused on the sensation of his breath, feeling it enter and leave his body, cultivating a deep sense of mindfulness, or sati. As Jin sat in this conscious breathing, or anapanasati, he began to observe his thoughts and emotions without judgment, like watching clouds drift across the sky. He noticed his impatience, his frustration, his subtle craving for a perfect outcome. But instead of engaging with them, he simply acknowledged their presence and returned his attention to his breath, to the sensations in his body. He realized that his inner turmoil was not inherent to him, but a product of his ego's restless striving and identification with fleeting mental states. This was the beginning of cultivating equanimous observation, or vipassana, a deep, non-reactive awareness, fostering a profound stillness. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching that our true nature, our Buddha mind, is like the inherent smoothness within the stone, waiting to be revealed. The ego's rough edges, our judgments, attachments, and cravings, are like the superfluous layers that obscure this innate clarity. Through the practices of mindfulness and conscious breathing, we can gently chip away at these layers, not by force, but by patient equanimous observation, revealing the polished surface of our true self. Jin learned that true inner peace was not about achieving a perfect external form, but about cultivating a profound stillness within, a deep sense of self-knowledge and contentment. Thich Nhat Hanh, a revered Zen master, taught, "Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment." Jin, through his practice, began to embody this wisdom. His identity shifted from a stone carver who strove for external perfection to a being who understood and cultivated inner clarity. The simple sphere, once a source of frustration, became a powerful teacher, revealing that true mastery lay in the art of presence, in finding sufficiency in the here and now, in the seamless integration of body and mind, a deep resonance with the Dharma. Jin's journey taught him that true beauty and inner peace are not found in external achievements, but in the polished surface of a mind at rest, free from the ego's incessant striving. The stone, once a challenge to his skill, became a mirror reflecting his own capacity for profound stillness and equanimity. His self-compassion grew as he understood that the pursuit of external perfection often masked a deeper craving for inner peace, and that true serenity was always available within the boundless awareness of the present moment. He found that letting go of the need for control allowed for a natural flow to emerge, a deep sense of inner freedom. In this grounded presence, we cultivate a radical acceptance of what is, a spaciousness that embraces all experiences with equanimity. Jin's polished sphere, once a symbol of his struggle, became a testament to the clarity found in mindful awareness, reminding us that our true nature is always present beneath the surface. As we consider this profound stillness, let us prepare to explore how the ego's need for control and its anxiety of losing direction can obscure the wisdom of trusting the natural path, and how surrendering to the flow of Dharma can reveal a deeper sense of intentionality and inner peace. The shepherd's lost flock, trusting the path of Dharma. In this grounded presence, we cultivate a radical acceptance of what is, a spaciousness that embraces all experiences with equanimity. Tonight, we explore the ego's pervasive need for control and its profound anxiety of losing direction, which often obscures the wisdom of trusting the natural path, the flow of Dharma. Let us turn our attention to Thomas, a young shepherd whose days were spent guiding his flock across vast rolling hills. He took immense pride in his ability to keep his sheep together, to anticipate every turn, to lead them safely through familiar pastures. His identity was deeply intertwined with his role as a protector and guide, and he believed that his unwavering control was essential for the well-being of his flock, fostering a profound stillness in his focused vigilance. Thomas's life was meticulously planned, every grazing route, every resting spot carefully chosen. He prided himself on his foresight, his ability to prevent any mishaps. He often worried about unforeseen dangers, about losing a sheep, and this subtle craving for absolute control, this trishna, created a constant undercurrent of anxiety, a subtle suffering that permeated his days. He believed that his efforts alone were responsible for the safety and prosperity of his flock, preventing him from trusting the inherent wisdom of nature or the innate intelligence of his experienced sheepdogs. His ego was deeply invested in his role as the sole decision-maker, disrupting his cognitive ease and his capacity for equanimity. One morning, a sudden dense fog rolled in from the valleys, thick and disorienting, swallowing the familiar landscape in an instant. Thomas, disoriented and panicked, quickly realized a portion of his flock had become separated, their faint bleating swallowed by the mist. His heart pounded with fear. He tried to force his way through the fog, shouting, running in circles, desperately attempting to regain control and find his lost sheep. But each frantic attempt only disoriented him further, making him more lost, amplifying his sense of helplessness and suffering, an embodiment of his struggle against impermanence, or anicca. Thomas's ego, accustomed to being in control, felt completely shattered by the fog's impenetrable veil. His external measure of competence, his ability to guide his flock, had been utterly negated. He craved the clear visibility, the familiar pathways, the certainty of his own direction, and this Trishna intensified his inner turmoil. The damp chill of the fog, the soft bleating of his lost sheep, all seemed to underscore his perceived failure. He resisted the reality of the situation, clinging to his need for control, unable to find a profound stillness in the face of chaos, unable to trust anything beyond his own frantic efforts. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm him, an old shepherd, known for his calm demeanor and deep wisdom, emerged from the mist. He watched Tomas's frantic efforts for a moment, then placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Tomas," he said softly, "when the path is unseen, the best thing to do is stand still. Listen to the distant bells. Trust the path your experienced dogs have learned. The Dharma, the natural order, will guide them home if you allow it." Tomas, though initially resistant, was too exhausted to argue. He reluctantly stood still, closed his eyes, and tried to listen, cultivating a deep sense of mindfulness, or sati. As Tomas stood in the profound stillness, he focused on the distant, faint jingle of bells, the sound of his led ewe, and the soft, almost imperceptible rustle of his dogs moving with an innate wisdom. He let go of his need to control, allowing a deeper awareness to emerge. He realized that his frantic efforts had been driven by fear and ego, not by true guidance. The dogs, trained over generations, possessed an inherent knowledge of the terrain and the flock, a seamless integration of instinct and experience. He allowed himself to trust this innate intelligence, this natural flow, understanding that sometimes the most effective action is non-action, or wu-wei, fostering a deep sense of equanimity. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of Dharma, which refers to the universal law, the natural order, and the path to awakening. It also speaks to the importance of intentionality, aligning our actions with this natural flow, rather than forcing our will against it. Tomas's ego had been bound by his need for control, but by surrendering to the wisdom of the Dharma, by trusting the innate intelligence of his dogs and the natural order of things, he found liberation, a deep sense of inner freedom and non-attachment. He discovered that true guidance often comes when we let go of our own striving and allow a deeper wisdom to unfold, fostering a deep self-knowledge. The Buddha taught, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves." Tomas, by releasing his anxious thoughts of control and embracing a purer trust in the natural order, found a profound joy and inner peace. His identity shifted from a shepherd who controlled his flock to a being who understood and flowed with the Dharma, who trusted the inherent wisdom of life itself. This cultivation of non-striving, of simply being present with what is, brought him immense contentment and a deep resonance with his original nature. Tomas's journey taught him that true leadership and peace are found not in rigid control, but in wise surrender, in trusting the path that unfolds naturally. The fog, initially a source of panic, became a powerful teacher, forcing him to look beyond his own limited perspective and discover the boundless wisdom that resides in the natural flow of existence. His self-compassion grew as he understood that the ego's need for control often masked a deeper fear, and that true serenity was always available when he aligned himself with the Dharma, with the intentionality of simply allowing. Trusting the natural flow, we allow our true nature to emerge effortlessly, like a shepherd trusting his flock to the wisdom of the path. Tomas's lost sheep, once a source of deep anxiety, became a profound lesson in surrendering to the Dharma, reminding us that true guidance often comes when we let go of our need for control. As we consider this effortless being, let us prepare to explore how the ego's relentless striving for results and achievements can obscure the wisdom of non-striving, and how embracing the art of Wu Wei can lead to a profound inner freedom and boundless spaciousness. The old fisherman's empty net, the wisdom of non-striving. Trusting the natural flow, we allow our true nature to emerge effortlessly, like a shepherd trusting his flock to the wisdom of the path. Tonight, we explore the ego's relentless striving for results and achievements, and how this constant pursuit can obscure the profound wisdom of non-striving, revealing a deeper inner freedom and boundless spaciousness. Let us turn our attention to old Kaito, a fisherman whose weathered face held the stories of countless seasons on a quiet, expansive lake. He once measured his worth by the fullness of his nets, the sheer volume of fish he brought back to shore each day. His identity was deeply intertwined with his success, with the tangible proof of his hard work and skill, generating a profound stillness in his focused efforts. Kaito's life revolved around the pursuit of a bountiful catch. He prided himself on his ability to find the best fishing spots, to cast his net with precision, and to return with nets heavy with fish. He believed that more fish meant more worth, and his striving for greater yields was a constant, underlying current in his life, a subtle craving, or trishna, that fueled his every action. He often compared his catch to that of younger fishermen, and any perceived shortfall created a subtle suffering, a blow to his ego and his sense of self-worth. His mind was constantly calculating, planning, and striving for the next big haul, preventing him from experiencing the contentment of the present moment, disrupting his cognitive ease. One season, a mysterious shift occurred in the lake. The fish, once abundant, became elusive, their movements unpredictable. Kaito, despite his immense experience and tireless efforts, found his nets coming up empty, day after day. His usual techniques, his meticulous planning, his relentless striving, all yielded little. Panic began to set in, a deep fear that threatened his livelihood and his carefully constructed identity as a successful fisherman. He tried harder, casting his net with greater force, staying out longer, but his striving yielded nothing, amplifying his sense of frustration and helplessness, an embodiment of his struggle against impermanence, or anicca. Kaito's ego, accustomed to the validation of a full net, felt completely shattered by the persistent emptiness. His external measure of competence, his ability to provide, had been utterly negated. He craved the familiar weight of a successful catch, the reassurance of abundance, and this trishna intensified his inner turmoil. The gentle lapping of the water against his boat, once a comforting sound, now seemed to mock his efforts, highlighting his perceived failure. He resisted the reality of the changing lake, clinging to his need for control, unable to find a profound stillness in the face of uncertainty, unable to trust anything beyond his own frantic efforts. Exhausted and disheartened, Kaito finally decided to approach his fishing with a different mindset. He no longer went out with the desperate intention of catching fish, but simply to be on the lake, to feel the gentle rocking of his boat, to breathe the fresh air, to cast his net, not with expectation, but with a deep sense of reverence for the lake itself and the ancient act of fishing. He let go of his striving, his attachment to the outcome, allowing a deeper awareness to emerge. He noticed the subtle scent of fresh water and reeds, the way the light danced on the surface, the rhythmic cast of his net, cultivating a deep sense of mindfulness, or sati. As Kaito sat in this profound stillness, casting his net without expectation, he began to understand the wisdom of non-striving, or Wu Wei. He realized that his previous efforts, driven by ego and craving, had created a sense of separation between himself and the lake, between himself and the fish. Now, by simply being present with the act, by letting go of the need for a specific result, he felt a profound connection, a seamless integration with the natural flow of the environment. He understood that true abundance was not just about what he caught, but about the richness of the experience itself, the profound stillness of simply being, a deep sense of equanimity. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching of non-striving and the concept of wu-wei, acting without attachment to the outcome, allowing things to unfold naturally. Kaito's ego had been bound by his pursuit of results, but by embracing non-striving, he found liberation, a deep sense of inner freedom and non-attachment. He discovered that true contentment, true inner peace, came not from fulfilling desires, but from releasing them, from recognizing the inherent sufficiency of the present moment. His original nature, his Buddha mind, was inherently peaceful, needing no external achievements to validate its existence, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Alan Watts, a renowned interpreter of Zen, often spoke of the art of effortless action, stating, "The more you try to do it, the more difficult it becomes. The more you let go, the more things naturally take care of themselves." Kaito's journey was a living embodiment of this wisdom. He learned that by letting go of his striving, by trusting the natural flow, he found a profound sense of inner freedom and contentment, regardless of the catch. His identity shifted from a fisherman defined by his yield to a being who understood and embodied the Dharma, the natural order of existence. This cultivation of beginner's mind, or shoshin, brought him immense peace. Kaito's journey taught him that true wisdom lay not in relentless striving for more, but in patient observation and deep appreciation for the essence of things, in the spaciousness of non-action. The empty net, initially a source of despair, became a powerful teacher, revealing that the ego's craving for results creates suffering, and that true peace lies in recognizing the inherent value and beauty of simply existing, unburdened. His self-compassion grew as he understood that the pursuit of external achievements often masked a deeper craving for inner peace, and that true serenity was always available when he aligned himself with the natural flow, with the intentionality of simply allowing. This effortless being reveals the inherent wisdom that lies beyond the ego's grasp, a boundless spaciousness that holds all possibilities. Kaito's empty net, once a symbol of failure, became a profound lesson in the wisdom of non-striving, reminding us that true abundance is found in inner freedom. As we consider this deep contentment, let us prepare to explore how the ego's constant need to tell and identify with personal stories can obscure our true nature, and how embracing the storyteller's silence can reveal the boundless, formless reality that exists beyond any narrative of self. The storyteller's silence, beyond the narrative of self. This effortless being reveals the inherent wisdom that lies beyond the ego's grasp, a boundless spaciousness that holds all possibilities. Tonight, we explore the ego's constant need to tell and identify with personal stories, with the narratives we construct about ourselves, and how this can obscure our true, boundless nature. Let us turn our attention to Lena, a celebrated storyteller whose captivating tales of heroes and villains, of love and loss, enthralled audiences across the land. Her voice, rich and melodious, filled grand halls, weaving intricate tapestries of human experience. Lena's identity was deeply intertwined with her ability to craft compelling narratives, to define herself and the world through stories, generating a profound stillness in her focused performance. Lena believed that her life, and indeed all of existence, was a collection of stories. She meticulously curated her own personal narrative, emphasizing her triumphs, downplaying her failures, always striving to present a cohesive, admirable self. Her ego thrived on the applause, the recognition, the validation she received for her performances. She found comfort in the defined roles she played, both on stage and in life, and she feared the absence of a compelling narrative, believing it would diminish her own being. This subtle craving, or trishna, for a continuous, engaging story created a quiet anxiety, a subtle suffering that permeated her days, preventing a true embodiment of her inherent self, disrupting her cognitive ease. One evening, after a particularly moving performance, Lena found herself alone in the hushed anticipation of the empty hall. The warmth of the stage lights still lingered, and the echo of her own voice seemed to hang in the air. But instead of the usual satisfaction, a profound emptiness settled within her. She realized that while she had just told a powerful story, her own inner world felt strangely hollow. Her mind, accustomed to spinning narratives, suddenly went quiet, and in that unexpected silence, she felt a disorienting sense of anatta, a loss of the self she had always known, a profound stillness that was both unsettling and strangely liberating. Lena's ego, accustomed to the constant validation of her storytelling, felt utterly adrift in this silence. Her external measure of worth, her ability to captivate and define, had been completely negated. She craved the familiar comfort of her own personal narrative, the reassuring certainty of a well-defined self, and this trishna intensified her inner turmoil. The silence, once a mere pause between words, now felt vast and boundless, highlighting her perceived lack of identity without a story to tell. She resisted this formless state, clinging to her need for definition, unable to find a profound stillness in the absence of a narrative, a true moment of suffering. As Lena sat in the profound stillness of the empty hall, she allowed the silence to deepen. She stopped trying to construct a narrative, to define herself, to fill the void with words or concepts. She simply sat, observing the stillness, the quiet echo of her own breath, the subtle sensations in her body. She realized that her true nature existed prior to any story, any character, any narrative she could construct. The self she had so meticulously built through her tales was merely a temporary construct, a fleeting performance. This was an ontological shift, a visceral awareness of her original nature, her Buddha mind that was boundless and unconditioned, cultivating a deep sense of equanimity. In that profound silence, Lena experienced a revelation. She understood that her true self was not the storyteller, nor the stories she told, but the vast, spacious awareness in which all stories, all thoughts, all experiences arose and passed. This was the essence of sunyata, emptiness, not as nothingness, but as the dynamic potentiality of all phenomena, free from inherent fixed existence. Her ego's attachment to her personal narrative had been a heavy burden, but by dissolving this attachment, she found liberation, a deep sense of inner freedom and non-attachment. She discovered that her wisdom lay not in recounting tales, but in resting in the formless, in the boundless awareness that permeated everything, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Dogen Zenji, a revered Zen master, taught, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things." Lena, by embracing the storyteller's silence, was learning to forget the self defined by her narratives, allowing herself to be actualized by the boundless, unconditioned reality that existed prior to any story. She found liberation in the formless, a profound stillness that arose from letting go of the need for self-definition, and embracing the inherent wisdom of the undefined, a true embodiment of radical acceptance. Lena's journey taught her that true freedom lay not in crafting the perfect story of herself, but in transcending all stories, in recognizing her original nature, the Buddha mind that was always present, pure and boundless. The silence, initially a source of discomfort, became a powerful teacher, revealing that the ego's constant need for narrative creates suffering, and that true peace lies in recognizing the inherent value and beauty of simply existing, unburdened by the weight of self-definition. Her self-compassion grew as she understood that the desire to define oneself was a universal human experience, and that true serenity was always available within the boundless awareness of the present moment. This spacious silence, this profound stillness, allows us to recognize the boundless interconnectedness of all life beyond the confines of our individual narratives. Lena's voice, once her identity, now became a conduit for a deeper truth, reminding us that our true nature is always present prior to any story we tell. As we consider this liberating silence, let us prepare to explore how the ego's tendency to reject parts of itself or experiences it deems negative can obscure the wisdom of transformation, and how embracing what is rejected can reveal fertile ground for growth and self-compassion. The gardener's compost, transforming what is rejected. This spacious silence, this profound stillness, allows us to recognize the boundless interconnectedness of all life beyond the confines of our individual narratives. Tonight, our journey culminates by exploring the ego's pervasive tendency to reject parts of itself, to push away experiences it deems negative or undesirable, and how this resistance can obscure the wisdom of transformation, preventing growth. Let us turn our attention to Haru, a devoted gardener whose meticulously kept temple garden was a model of order and beauty. He painstakingly removed every ugly weed, every decaying leaf, every imperfection, believing that only through such rigorous purification could true beauty flourish, generating a profound stillness in his focused cultivation. Haru's identity was deeply intertwined with the pristine condition of his garden. He prided himself on its flawless appearance, its absolute lack of anything he deemed unsightly or undesirable. His ego found comfort in this control, this ability to create an idealized environment, and he feared any deviation from this perfection, believing it would diminish his own worth. This subtle craving for an unblemished reality, this trishna, created a constant underlying anxiety, a subtle suffering that permeated his days. He was constantly striving to eliminate what he perceived as negative, preventing him from experiencing the inherent contentment of simply being, disrupting his cognitive ease and his capacity for equanimity. One warm afternoon, Haru was diligently pulling weeds when a wise elder, a monk known for his deep understanding of nature, observed his efforts. "Haru," the elder said gently, "where do all these rejected things go?" Haru pointed to a distant, unsightly pile of decaying matter, a place he avoided, a symbol of everything he deemed undesirable. The elder smiled. "Come, let us visit this place of rejection." Haru reluctantly followed, his mind filled with resistance to what he considered an unpleasant necessity, a challenge to his cognitive ease and his carefully constructed sense of order, creating a subtle suffering in his reluctance. As they approached the forgotten corner of the garden, a faint, earthy smell of decomposition hung in the air. Haru felt a wave of aversion, a deep craving for the pristine beauty of his cultivated beds. But the elder simply knelt beside the pile, running his hands through the rich, dark soil that lay beneath the decaying leaves and withered plants. "Haru," he explained, This is the compost pile. Here, what is rejected, what is deemed ugly or useless, transforms into the richest soil, nourishing new life. Without this decay, there would be no vibrant growth in your beautiful garden. It is all interconnected. Haru listened, a visceral awareness beginning to stir within him, an ontological shift in his perception of waste. In that profound stillness beside the compost pile, Haru began to understand. He realized that his relentless pursuit of external perfection, his rejection of anything he deemed undesirable, had created an illusion of separation. He had been fighting against a natural, essential process, unaware that the very things he cast aside were vital for the flourishing of his garden. He saw the warmth of the compost, the vibrant green of new shoots pushing through the rich, dark earth, drawing life from decay. This was a radical acceptance of the interconnectedness of all things, an embodiment of the seamless integration of life and death, of what is perceived as good and bad. This experience illuminated the Buddhist teaching that suffering often arises from our resistance to what is, from our ego's tendency to reject parts of ourselves or experiences we deem negative. These rejected parts, however, hold immense potential for transformation and growth. The compost pile became a powerful metaphor for the practice of Tonglen, a Tibetan Buddhist practice of taking in suffering and sending out compassion, of transforming what is difficult into fertile ground for wisdom. Haru learned that by embracing all aspects of existence, even the unpleasant ones, he could cultivate a deeper sense of self-compassion and inner freedom, fostering a deep self-knowledge. Pema Chodron, a respected Buddhist teacher, often speaks of working with difficult emotions and experiences, stating, "Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know." Haru's journey taught him that the weeds of his own mind, his anxieties, his imperfections, his perceived flaws, were not to be eradicated, but to be transformed. By accepting and integrating these aspects, by allowing them to become compost for his inner landscape, he cultivated a deeper sense of contentment and equanimity. His identity shifted from a gardener who controlled nature to a being who understood and flowed with the Dharma, the natural cycles of transformation, a deep resonance with his original nature. Haru's journey taught him that true beauty and inner peace are found not in the absence of perceived flaws, but in the radical acceptance and transformation of all aspects of existence. The compost pile, initially a source of aversion, became a powerful teacher, revealing that the ego's rejection of certain experiences creates suffering, and that true peace lies in recognizing the inherent value and potential for growth in everything, just as it is. His self-compassion grew as he understood that the desire to eliminate what is unpleasant often masked a deeper fear, and that true serenity was always available when he embraced the natural flow with the intentionality of simply allowing. As the journey concludes, we gently re-enter the present moment, renewed and at peace, understanding that true growth comes from embracing all parts of ourselves, even those we once rejected. Haru's garden, once a symbol of his control, became a living testament to the wisdom of transformation, reminding us that even in decay, there is the promise of new life, new understanding, and a boundless capacity for self-compassion. As we prepare to gently re-enter our own quiet space, let us carry this wisdom of acceptance and transformation, allowing it to nurture our true nature. Conclusion: the unfolding of true nature. As the journey concludes, we gently re-enter the present moment, renewed and at peace, understanding that true growth comes from embracing all parts of ourselves, even those we once rejected. Allow yourself now to reground your awareness gently within your own body, feeling the soft support beneath you. sensing the quiet rhythm of your breath. There is nothing left for you to do, nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to achieve in this moment. You are here, fully present, completely at ease, and that in itself is utterly sufficient. This very breath, this quiet awareness, is all that is truly needed. As you lie or sit, allow the weight of your body to settle, to soften, releasing any lingering tension. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your abdomen, a silent testament to the life force flowing effortlessly within you. This is your sanctuary, this present moment, a space where your true nature, boundless and free, can gently unfold. There is no need to grasp, no need to strive. Simply allow yourself to be, to rest in this profound stillness, this deep sense of equanimity that resides within you, always accessible, always present. This is your inherent wisdom, your Buddha mind, ever present and luminous. The stories we have shared tonight of weavers and silversmiths, cartographers and gardeners, bell makers and architects, sculptors, watchmakers, lighthouse keepers, potters, salt harvesters, shepherds and storytellers have all pointed to the same profound truth, that our true nature is not found in the constructs of the ego, in our achievements, our possessions, our roles, or our narratives. It is found in the spaciousness that remains when we gently let go of these attachments, in the boundless awareness that is always present beneath the surface of the mind, a deep sense of inner freedom and contentment. You already carry within you all the wisdom, all the peace, all the compassion you could ever need. This journey has been a gentle reminder, an invitation to recall what already resides within your deepest being, to recognize the inherent sufficiency of your true self. As you drift now towards sleep, or simply deeper relaxation, know that you are held in this vast, interconnected web of existence, a part of the natural flow, embraced by a profound stillness that transcends all words, all concepts, all striving. There is nothing broken within you that needs fixing, nothing missing that needs finding. Allow your mind to quiet, your thoughts to soften, like clouds drifting effortlessly across a vast clear sky. There is no need to engage with them, no need to follow their lead. Simply observe their passing, returning your gentle attention to the anchor of your breath, to the soothing sensations of your body resting. This practice of non-attachment, of conscious breathing and mindful awareness is your pathway to deep rest, to profound inner peace, and to the gentle unfolding of your true, original nature, the boundless spaciousness of your being. As you surrender to the embrace of sleep, or to this moment of profound relaxation, know that you are entering a space of renewal, of restoration. Your body knows how to rest, your mind knows how to quiet, and your spirit knows how to simply be. Trust this natural process, this inherent wisdom within you. You are enough, exactly as you are, in this very moment. This is radical acceptance, the ultimate act of self-compassion, a seamless integration with the rhythm of existence. If these words have resonated with something deep within your heart, if this space has offered you a moment of peace and reflection, we invite you to return whenever you need this quiet sanctuary. Consider subscribing to keep this harbor of tranquility close at hand, a gentle reminder of your capacity for profound stillness and inner freedom. Your continued presence supports this shared journey of awakening to our true nature. May your sleep be deep and restorative, a truly sacred pause. May your dreams be gentle, and may you awaken refreshed, renewed, and reconnected to the boundless wisdom that resides within you. Rest now, dear friend. You are safe, you are loved, you are peace,